All right. So we reviewed CRUD. We talked about CRUD, and we talked about those routes that go with CRUD, right? And CRUD is just a list of these actions. So you'll hear these routes, and you'll hear these CRUD actions for like single resources. Right now, we're just talking about one resource, right? So we were talking about like posts or something like that. Often you'll have resources that are related, and that's what we have in our app that we're working with right now. We have cohorts, and then each cohort has a bunch of students attached to it, right? So you'll see this pattern quite a bit where you'll have these related resources, and you'll want to create routes that, that get you the resources in a related way. So what does that mean? So that means, like, if I go to /cohorts, what does this give me right now, the way we have it? I make a get to /cohorts. What do I see? I see a big list of all the cohorts, right? If I make a get to /cohorts/ID, what does that get me? See, one cohort, right? Now, one cohort has many students, right? And I could, when we go here, I could just list all the students, right? But for the purposes of understanding what a nested route is, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to say, like, if I go here, maybe I just get a bunch of details like start and end date. Maybe I get like who the instructors are for that cohort, maybe the number of students. So maybe it's just info about the cohort itself. But if I want to see all the students related to this cohort, then I would have a route that would be cohort/ID/students. And this is this idea of nested resources, right? I have cohorts that are related to students, and I want to see a specific cohort and all the students in it. So if I write this route, this is it. This is the whole lesson for today. This is the nested route, right? I have these two resources that are related. I don't need any student IDs because I want all of them, right? But I do need to know the cohort because I don't want to see every single student. That would be hundreds of students if we saw all the students for the cohort. I just want to see the ones for like ID 2, which would be like Foxtrot, right? I think the way we made it right now. And I want to see all those students. So it's the same idea. So what I'm going to do I'm going to have this route, and it's going to hit a view, and I'm going to have like def, I can't remember what we called it, but like for students. It's going to take the request and the ID. So I'm going to go to this route. I'm going to write a function. And that function is going to do basically the same stuff we did before. It's just going to add one thing to it. So it's going to check the request. If it's just a get, we don't even need to check the request. But we have this ID. So I'm going to find the cohort. Cohort equals cohort.objects.get. ID equals ID. Right? So now I have the cohort saved to a variable called C. Then I want all the students, and because we set up these relations, because we have the ORM, how am I going to get all the students? How would I query, once I have the cohort, how do I get all the students? C, I think I can do C dot, is it objects dot students? Just trying to remember the syntax.
You don't have to fit
I don't need objects? Do I not need object? We'll figure it out. The point is I have a specific cohort right now, safe to see, and in some way, shape, or form, I want to do dot students. And that's going to return me a big collection of all those students, right? I'm going to save this to a variable. We'll call it S right now, right? So now I have the cohort, I have the students. So then when I'm returning my view, render, and then I pass it that data object, I just create it however I want. Like, I can just say students equals S, and then cohort equals C. And then when I have my view, I have all this information. So I can say like cohort.name, and then make a list of all the students that go with that cohort. Questions? All right, so we have this exact idea, and we have the same thing happening when we want to add a student, right? And why this is helpful is if I just went to, if I just went to like students slash new, and I go to create a student, I would have to like select what cohort they belong to, and when I created the student, right, so that they were connected to a cohort. But if I do cohorts slash ID slash new students, then when I get the form, this makes no sense. Let me just do it. I'm like, I can see confusing the hell out of everybody. Let's just look at it. All right. Okay. So here are my URLs just for cohorts. And then down here, commented out for right now, are my nested routes, right? So here's the first one I was talking about, the student list, right? Seeing all the students. And it's so remember, it's always going to start cohorts because that's how we set it up in the project. And then it's going to be the ID and then slash students. And then it's going to run a function called student list. So let's write this one and see what it looks like. So let me run my server real quick. That exploded because this one doesn't. So this is our admin panel. Let's look at our actual app real quick though. So right now, this would be like the client-facing part of our app, right? And we made these two cohorts. We can create a new one. So we have this functionality on the front end as well. Same thing, we get this form. We save, this is our show page for the cohort. We can delete it, we can edit it, which gives us the filled in form. And we can go back to cohorts and see the list, right? I want to be able to go to, so Bravo, I want to be able to go to cohort/3/students and see all the students, but that doesn't exist yet, right? So we have to do two things. First, let's actually make some students. So let's go to admin students. And so you can see the way this is filled out, I have to pick Bravo. So I have to pick which student. It'll be me. I'll spell my own name correctly. Save it. And so now I'm here. Let's make one more student.
How does it know that your students belong to a cohort?
Right now, because I'm specifically selecting it.
Yeah, but
from here.
How does it know you need to select that?
Because of the way I set my models up.
Yeah.
So this is Django magic. Django, when I do that admin panel, Django sees like, oh, cohort has many students. That means every time you create a student, it has to have a cohort ID. So I'm going to build that form for you. All right, so John and I are now part of Bravo Platoon. This is our back end. We want to be able to go to cohorts / I think 1 for Bravo / students and see me and John basically listed. Cool. And again, this is just a pattern. There are other ways you could allow users to access this information, but when you have related things like this, it's very common to do this thing that you'll hear a lot called nested routes, right? Where the route is just like, it's just syntax for the route that makes sense, I guess, okay? So let's write this real quick and see what it looks like. So let me go back to URLs. And this one's already written for us, so we'll comment it out. We're doing the same thing. We're expecting a route with the cohort ID, but this time it's also to /students, and we're going to run student list, which we haven't written yet. So let's go to the views, and we'll come down here. We'll do def. What was it called? Student list. It's going to take in the request, and it's going to take in the cohort ID. Yeah. Okay, make sure I'm writing this correctly. Cool. So we're gonna do exactly what I did on the board. I'm gonna find my cohort. And it's gonna be cohort.objects.get ID equals cohort ID. Then I'm gonna get all the students. And that's gonna be the cohort variable that I just created on 43. This is what it was. It's .students.all, right? And that's going to save all the students here. Then I'm just going to return render, and the request needs to go in there. And then I need to tell it where to find my template. So that's going to be in students underscore list.html. And then the last thing is the data. And I'm just going to create the object. Actually, let's do it up here because I'm going to lose time. We're just going to say data equals, and that's a dictionary. And I can pass whatever I want here. Cohort, colon? Yeah. Cohort, and then students, student. And then down here, I can just pass data. Cool. We clear on this? We've been doing this for a few days. Question, go ahead, Ryan.
Why do we have to pass the cohort? If we identify which cohort in the function, can we just pass students to the rendered template?
You could, but when I'm in the template, I want to say like Bravo Platoon.
Okay, you just want the name.
It's just basically I'm just going to get the name from it. Yeah, okay. That's why I'm doing it right now. So now I have a template, and so now we can take some time with this template because I know there were some questions about that this morning. So let me go over here, and in templates, I had my cohorts folder. Now I'm going to make a separate folder called students, right? And then in there, I'm going to make a new file. What is it called? Students list. Students list. Yes, yes. Templates. So I'm in my cohort project, templates. I have all the ones that are just related to cohort. So this was my CRUDing of the single resource I'm putting in here. And then I have students in here. Go ahead.
That's a project or an app?
This is the cohort students is the project. I'm sorry, is the app. Is the app.
Yeah.
Did I say project?
Yeah, you said
I
that.
did,
And I said yes. I am so sorry. No, this templates is in the app. Is in the app. My
You
bad.
asked something else like earlier. It's this what the URLs in the project or the app. You said the project is the app. Yeah.
I'm gonna assume
These are my app.
I'll say that.
These are my app URLs right here. Okay, where did I want to be? This. Okay. So now let me go down and find this one. Student detail. No. Student list. So let's take a quick look at the HTML in this template. So I have all students for cohort. Remember that, and that's what Narayan was asking, like, why do I want the cohort? Just so I can do cohort.cohort name and have that displayed. These double curly brackets, whenever I want something to show up in the template, whenever I want whatever that evaluates, if it's a function, if it's a variable, when I want the value to show up in the template, I use double curly brackets. The reason for that is that's what they decided, right? They needed some syntax to indicate, and something that we don't use often in HTML, so that it can, the template engine can determine what to do when it gets, so it reads through the whole line. When it gets to double brackets and end double brackets, it takes whatever's here and evaluates it and actually inserts it into the HTML.
Was Ginger and Django made by the same?
I have no idea, probably not, but I don't know. Cool, so that's just gonna say, when we go to the first one, it'll say all students for Bravo Platoon, or for Bravo. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Owen.
So which cohort is it referring to?
Whatever cohort I looked up in the views function.
Okay, so slash cohort slash.
Say it'll be an ID.
So runs that function, then when it says render, it calls render, and it grabs the student or student list.
Yep.
And then keeps that. Yep.
Yeah, it gets passed in. So yeah, so all the variables, these two variables, because I saved them and passed them here in this data object, they are now available to me in the template. So there's cohort name. Now, so cohort is one thing. So I just call cohort name and I get it, right? Students is a collection, it's a list, right? So if I want to display all the names of the students, the only way to access everything in the list is to loop, right? That's from like day one, right? If we have a whole list of stuff and I want to see everything in it, I got to loop through it. So that's what's happening here. Now, I have bracket percentage sign here. Again, it's just something that indicates to Jinja, the renderer that we're using, that this is Python code I need you to run, but I don't want you to print any, I don't want you to evaluate anything and put it in the HTML, right? So I just want you to loop through all the students, and for each student, I'm gonna create a list item. And you can see I'm gonna do, so, let's see, where is it? Cohort ID, blah, 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 student ID, this is all in the link. Student.firstname. Cool?
It says cohort ID, cohort ID.
Dot ID, yeah. So this is because,
Okay, you passing that in. So
yeah. So we're also getting it from cohort, as we still have cohort here. We're doing cohort ID. And this is just creating a link for us, right? The reason we have to do the end for is because because of just the mashing. Again, this is just the way that they built this render thing. And they need to know what, like it's not gonna read spaces the way Python does, right? Python will read your indentation, so it'll know that it reads white space, right? And it knows the for loop ends because you stopped indenting. But it can't do that in HTML because look, with HTML, we can do any white space thing. I can put this all the way over here and it'll still work, right? So we just need some indication that we want the loop is done, right? We're outside of the loop now. Like every time during the loop, I don't need to make this UL tab. So that's the only reason that this is here. It's just a way to indicate to the to Jinja, which is the renderer. Does that help a little bit? Hopefully. Any other questions about what's going on in these templates? Yeah.
I had a question, but I think because we keep passing in like the whole object for anything we're going to use in the dictionary. We're doing that so that we don't have to go. If we want to change the template, we don't have to go back and change the view. So I was thinking, why don't we just pass the name? That's all we're doing.
Yeah, that's a great question. You could do that. It really just depends on what you're doing. Here we wanted the cohort ID as well, and it's just at a certain point. It's like if you're going to break the object all the way up into all its pieces anyway, just pass the whole thing in, right? But you're right. If we only needed the name, you could just pass the name. You could just do that.
The stuff like this affect the stuff like this affect like speed and or like passing in the whole object or
on a level that is not a concern to us at all, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So now, hopefully this is hooked up correctly, and we can go to this route again. No, do I not have my server running? And cohort/1/students. What does it hate? Let me restart the server. Maybe it's because we added that route. Okay, cool. A new error. Cohort matching query does not exist. Oh, you know what? I bet there isn't a one because I deleted. Let's do this. I was messing with this yesterday, so there probably isn't. Go to Bravo. Okay, cool.
yeah, it's alpha. That's probably two.
I don't really know.
Probably two.
So it says right here, Bravo is 3.
Yeah.
So when I was messing with this yesterday, I think I made cohorts and deleted them. So we can go to 3/students, and it still explodes. Cool. No reverse. Do I have to import it? Where am I using it though?
Go back to the NB. I thought it was part of the.
Let's see what line.
Right there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So in the template, I'm using it. So does that mean I need to? I don't remember how that works. Do I need to pass it in, or do I just need to bring it into the? Let's go there. It's trying to run this reverse. That is absolutely not what I want to see. You know what? I think it's because I don't have the route for it. That's why.
That's what
Yeah, student detail. It doesn't have the student detail. So, okay, let's make that, I suppose. It wants that student detail page. Yeah, we have to do something there too.
Can we just comment out the link right now to see if it works?
Yes, that's an even better idea. Let's get rid of this. I like that idea a lot. So that's this link right here. So let's just take this for right now and just put a hash there. See if that works. Deleted that. What are you talking about? New student not found. So link down here. All right, we're getting there. But I commented that out. Why? Why? Why?
That is
Friggin' lame.
Is it trying to run Jigga even in comments?
Yeah, that might be like that. There we go. All right. So we had to get rid of those links because they were linking to things that didn't exist, right? But the important thing that I want to point out, and hopefully it's not a huge add to what we've been doing before, is that now we have cohorts /3. So I'm going to that cohort and I can see a list of all the students, right? So basically we implement all of that CRUD functionality again, but we do it with these nested routes. And we're not going to do all of them because we've all been in it. And it's going to walk you through today, so you'll see it. But just so you're aware of what's going on, we'll take one more look at the URLs. And you can see the rest of the URLs that we need are here. So cohort /cohort ID /students /new will take me to every time, man. This function, the new student function, which looks very similar to the new cohort function, right? We check if it's a post, we make the form, we check if the form is valid, we save it, and we go. What's nice is when Django makes this form, it will have, remember we were talking about that hidden input field? It'll have a hidden input field with the cohort ID already in it. So the form will already be attached to a cohort. So when you submit the student info, it'll be able to save it to a specific cohort. This will be clear when you start messing. Big lesson for today is just that basic CRUD stuff, right? How do these routes work and how do they evaluate to the function? And then this idea of nesting the routes. Go ahead, on.
Is that ID functionality like built into Django for every form?
It is for the forms when we do the forms. Where are my forms? Yeah, when we do that model form thing that we're doing here, right? So because we did it this way, it's built in. If we had to hand do it, we would have to create a form template and like create a hidden field all on our own. And, yeah, and then put the ID in there, which is how you would kind of hard code this, but Django does it for us. All right, sorry, I know we kind of sped up at the end. Are there any questions? Go through the tutorial for today. It's exactly what we did here. I'm pretty sure it'll clear things up. And if there are any other questions, if you want me to go over anything else this afternoon, I will. No, there's no assessment today. I think next 2 weeks. In 2 weeks is your next assessment? Yeah.
So I can prepare my heart.
I don't know. I don't know.